On the night of October 19th, the city of Beijing seemed to stop breathing for a moment. The air carried a sense of magic, anticipation, and awe as the long-awaited wedding of Zhao Lusi and Liu Wu finally took place. The event, dubbed by media outlets as the wedding of the century, brought together not just two beloved stars, but two souls whose journey from co-stars to lovers had been followed by millions across Asia. The celebration, held at the luxurious Beijing International Garden Villa, was an extraordinary display of elegance, emotion, and grandeur, a moment that reminded everyone why love stories, even in the glittering world of show business, still have the power to move hearts. The scene was breathtaking from the very first glance. Crystal chandeliers bathed the vast marble hall in soft golden light, while thousands of fresh white roses shipped directly from Ecuador cascaded down the grand staircase. Every step had been planned with precision, from the orchestra's gentle overture to the fragrance of peonies that lingered in the air. Guests began arriving hours early, a constellation of the most recognized faces in Chinese entertainment, from acclaimed directors to longtime collaborators. But as the clock struck 7, the atmosphere shifted. A hush spread across the room. All eyes turned toward the aisle. The soft melody of violins began to play. And there she was, Zhao Lusi, radiant in a custom Dior gown, her veil glittering under the light like the first frost of winter. Each step she took seemed to slow time itself. Standing at the altar, Liu Wu, dressed in a classic Armani tuxedo, blinked rapidly, as if holding back tears. The poised, confident actor who had charmed audiences for years was now visibly emotional. When she finally reached him, he whispered, voice breaking just enough for those nearby to hear, "I've waited for this moment since the day we first met." The ceremony unfolded with the kind of quiet intimacy that transcended even the most lavish surroundings. The officiant began with a few simple words, but it was the vows that stole the night. Zhao Lusi's voice quivered at first, yet her sincerity filled every corner of the hall. "Leo," she began, "you've always been the calm in my storm. You taught me that love doesn't need to be loud to be strong. It's the small things, the late-night calls, the quiet encouragement, the way you see me not as an actress, but as myself. I promise to walk beside you not as someone perfect, but as someone who will never stop choosing you." A murmur of admiration rippled through the audience. Even the photographers, who usually kept their fingers on the shutter, paused for a second, captivated by her words. Liu Wu's vows were equally moving, delivered in his steady, deep tone that trembled only slightly with emotion. "Lucy," he said, his eyes locked on hers, "I've played many roles, lived many lives on screen, but none of them ever taught me how to be me until you came along. You showed me that love isn't scripted. It's real, unpredictable, and worth everything. You are not my scene partner anymore. You're the story I want to live." The room erupted in applause. Guests rose to their feet, wiping tears, clapping not just for two stars, but for two people who had bared their hearts in front of the world without an ounce of pretense. After the ceremony, the newlyweds stepped into the open-air garden where thousands of candles flickered like tiny stars. The orchestra played a medley from Love Better Than Immortality and Who Rules the World, the dramas that had first brought them together. It was a symbolic choice, merging their fictional beginnings with their real-life destiny. The pair danced under a transparent canopy, the reflection of the moon shimmering on the polished floor. Guests stood in silent awe. It felt like less of an event and more like the closing scene of a film, one where everyone already knew it would become a legend. The reception dinner was no less spectacular. Tables were draped in white silk, adorned with crystal centerpieces and handwritten notes of gratitude from the couple. The menu, curated by Michelin-starred chefs, was inspired by milestones in their relationship: the first meeting truffle duck, the on-set promised lobster, and the forever rose mousse. Zhao Lusi raised her glass and said with a smile, "This is not the end of our story. It's the beginning of everything we dreamed of." Leo gently placed his hand over hers, replying softly, "Then let's write it together." As midnight approached, fireworks illuminated the Beijing sky, casting a glow that reflected off the couple's smiling faces. The guests cheered, the music swelled, and for one night, it felt as though time itself had stopped to honor their love. Reporters described it as a wedding that blurred the line between cinema and reality, and fans flooded social media with messages of joy, calling it the most beautiful love story ever witnessed in Chinese entertainment. Long after the final dance, when the lights dimmed and the guests departed, the lingering warmth that night remained. It wasn't just about the glamour or the grandeur. It was about two people who had lived under the brightest spotlight, yet managed to find something genuine amid all the noise. On October 19th, in the heart of Beijing, Zhao Lusi and Leo Wu didn't just get married. They wrote a new chapter in the story of modern C-biz, one that will be remembered, retold, and rewatched for years to come. In the days that followed, media outlets across Asia continued to replay the scenes from the ceremony. Every photo, every video clip of Zhao Lusi and Leo Wu exchanging vows became instant classics. Major networks in China, Korea, and Japan aired special segments titled "The Love Story That Moved a Generation." Commentators noted how rarely a celebrity wedding could evoke such a universal sense of warmth and sincerity. Many reflected on how Zhao Lusi's eyes had shimmered with tears when she said, "Even when the spotlight fades," a line that has now been quoted thousands of times online. For many fans who had followed their journey since their first drama together, it felt like watching fiction melt seamlessly into reality. "It's not just a wedding," one columnist from China Daily wrote. "It's a reminder that behind fame and glamour, two people simply chose to love, and to do so openly." Behind the scenes, a few stories surfaced about the preparations leading up to the grand day. According to close friends, Leo Wu had secretly planned a surprise performance for his bride, a soft piano rendition of Falling Slowly, a song that held special meaning for them since their early days working together, back when both were still nervous young actors learning to navigate fame. On the night of the wedding, after the official dance, Leo sat down at the piano and began to play. Zhao Lusi's expression shifted from surprise to tears within seconds. She covered her mouth, trying to compose herself, but emotion overwhelmed her. The guests erupted in applause as she walked toward him, placed her hand on his shoulder and whispered, "You still remember?" His quiet reply, "How could I ever forget?" became one of the most replayed sound bites of the night. The following morning, Beijing awoke to headlines that dominated every platform. On Weibo alone, hashtags related to the wedding surpassed 1.2 billion views within hours. Fashion magazines analyzed every detail of her gown. Architectural blogs discussed the venue's European-inspired layout, and fan accounts meticulously compiled clips from the ceremony set to orchestral music. Yet amid all the noise, what stood out most was the overwhelming respect from colleagues in the industry. Veteran actress Zhao Yashi commented, "In a time when everything feels staged, their emotions were completely unfiltered." Director Zhang Yimou, who attended as a guest, told reporters, "I've directed love stories my entire career, but last night reminded me why real love can't be recreated on screen." Even seasoned paparazzi admitted that, for once, they felt guilty interrupting such a genuine moment. The couple's families also drew attention for their quiet grace throughout the night. Zhao Lusi's father, a retired entrepreneur, was seen gently adjusting her veil moments before the ceremony began, his expression caught between pride and nostalgia. In his speech, he said, "I used to worry about her. This world of cameras and gossip isn't kind. But today, seeing how he looks at her, I know she'll never face it alone again." On the groom's side, Leo Wu's mother, a former teacher, was overcome with emotion. She told a reporter softly, "He used to be so shy as a boy. Now he stands on stage, fearless, because he found someone who gives him courage." Those family exchanges, understated yet sincere, touched viewers across generations. Even days later, the magic of the wedding lingered in the air. The couple had chosen not to go on an extravagant honeymoon immediately. Instead, they planned a quiet trip to the countryside, somewhere with no cameras, as Leo reportedly told friends. Fans respected their decision, interpreting